If you follow my reviews, you will know that last year, Neon absolutely killed it in the horror department. Only in the horror, though. I don't know what this was. Both Longlegs and Cuckoo were some of the most unique and interesting horror films I have seen in a long time. With so much style and out-of-the-box creativity, Neon is really setting itself apart from the rest. So, when I heard they were releasing another horror movie starring Lucy Liu, say less, I was in. And I do mean that. I basically went into this completely blind, having not watched any of the trailers beforehand, which is admittedly not very smart. But once again, Neon has given us a truly unique and extremely creative film with presence. They do things in this movie that I don't think has ever been done before, which is wild in the year of 2025. Presence truly is a one-of-a-kind experimental film. That being said, I believe most people will not like this movie. For one, they pulled a bit of a bait and switch on us, as I would not classify this movie as a horror film. I'm actually not sure what I would classify it as. It's kind of a slow burn thriller, if that's even possible. It's definitely a drama, but it also has a lot of mystery in it. And this movie is less of a straightforward, scary fear, and more of a dreadful fear, as the whole movie is just building suspense and anxiety as you know something horrible is going to happen, but you just don't know when. Kinda like watching a ticking time bomb. Another reason people are not going to like this movie is because, as I mentioned earlier, it is a slow burn that you really need to pay attention to. So, if you have the attention span of a squirrel, or were born after 1997, mentally, you probably are not going to be able to handle this one. They did basically the opposite of what Netflix has been doing, dumbifying their stories so the modern audience can follow along. Presence was absolutely not made for the general audience. It is, as I said, an experimental film, as they did things with camera work and perspective that I'm pretty sure has never been done before. The acting was pretty solid. Some of the younger actors did struggle a little bit here and there, but it was mostly fine. And the ending was really good and unexpected. That being said, I don't think this movie will appeal to the general audience. It's really more for movie buffs. So, for my highbrow critic score, I give Presence a 8 out of 10. And for my schmo score, the score for the average Joe Schmo, I give it a 5 out of 10. Now, this is the part where I explain my reviews, and I'm going to try to be as vague as possible, but I do have to reveal some spoilers in order to talk about it accurately. So, if you would like to see Presence spoiler-free, which I highly recommend, this is where we part ways. Thanks for showing up, and I want you to have a nice day. So the crazy thing about this film is that it is shot from the perspective of the Presence. The whole movie. There's no wide angles, close-ups, or landscape shots. It is 100% POV ghost vision, which I'm pretty sure has never been done before. And in doing this, the film made me contemplate things I have never had to think about before, like having to ascertain the character of the ghost solely through the camera, because the Presence never speaks or anything. So we, the audience, only have the movements of the camera to figure out its intentions. You know, if it's being fast and aggressive or hiding and eavesdropping. And it's funny because at times you forget it is a ghost POV because they set up shots like any other movie, you know, two characters having a dialogue. But then you remember, oh wait, if we're seeing this, that means the ghost is right there with them. And they do a lot of fun stuff with that concept. Also, a unique dynamic this brings in is we only know what the ghost knows. And as this is a haunted house, the presence can't leave the home. So anything that happens outside, we don't know about unless the family talks about it inside the house. Which is why I think this movie is not gonna be for most people, because you really have to pay attention. This movie is not so much about the presence as it is about the absolutely dysfunctional family as they go through a transition period after a great tragedy. And you just get little snippets of information here and there, like the disturbingly unhealthy attachment the mom has to the son. Or the dad making phone calls to a lawyer talking about how if one spouse does something illegal, how much will the other spouse be accountable for it? Or the daughter having 2 friends recently die in questionable ways. And this is where we run into the not so good things about this movie. Because this movie is a linear narrative that is just broken up into pieces. As there is only one storyline, but as the presence, we only see bits and parts of it when it pops in and out. Which works with the narrative as it is established the ghost has no control over this and is just as lost and confused as we are jumping through time. But that means as the audience member, you're going to have to work a lot harder in order to fully understand what's going on. And I want to make it clear, this is not a mistake or a flaw in the narrative, it's just a different way to tell a story. That being said, I believe this will alienate a lot of people who don't really want to have to piece together the mystery and just want it to be spoon-fed to them. Which is fair. Like I said, this is neither a good or bad thing, it's just a different way of doing things. And I personally really like it, but I also really like solving mysteries. So, there you go. Now, these next 2 things are going to be difficult to explain as I am trying to be as vague as possible to avoid spoilers, so bear with me. And if you want more clarification, you can watch my next live stream on Wednesday where I will go over all this in great detail. Full spoilers. So in this film, there is a sort of villain, if you will, and the more you think about this character, the more ridiculous they kind of become, as in this would never happen in reality. And I'm not talking about any of the supernatural stuffs. I'm talking just real world logistics. It just wouldn't work out the way it's depicted in the movie. And it's all just kind of ridiculous. And lastly, the ending, which is good. However, there are some parts that weren't. So, like I mentioned, the whole movie is just building suspense and tension all the way up to the climax, like most stories do. However, in this case, the climax is just kind of rushed, and if it had just ended there, I would have given this film a much lower score. Thankfully, the movie continues and gives a pretty satisfying and completely unexpected ending, which saves it. But still, the climax could have been given a little bit more time. Also, side note, speaking of time, this movie clocks in at under an hour and a half, showing that yes, it is still possible to tell a completed story in under 90 minutes. Still looking at you, Wicked. Absolutely ridiculous. All that being said, I really liked this film, and they truly did some revolutionary stuff here with storytelling. So if you're really into movies and filmmaking, you are not going to want to miss this one. Although, I don't think this one has to be seen in theaters. I always advocate for supporting artists, but honestly, this movie will probably be scarier watching it at home, especially if you're alone. But as always, you do you, sweet honey boo. Anyways, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll catch ya at the next one.